Alright Chris, tell us what you've done so far.
So the first thing I noticed about the bike was the clutch started slipping at high RPMs. The very first thing I did to check and see what the problem was is I adjusted what's called the clutch assembly, which is this mechanism right here. Now this is an SV650-S, so it may be different than your bike obviously, but it's a pretty simple design. It's basically a cylinder with ball bearings in it that as you pull it up and down it retracts and extends. And this is a double-sided bolt in here with a lock nut around it so that you can make adjustments. And what this does is it actuates the push rod right here. So this will sit over the push rod and the clutch cable will come down and pull this up and down, and this will push the push rod in, which separates the clutch plates, which activates and deactivates or engages and disengages the clutch. So what I did is I backed this off and retightened it down to see if it was an adjustment issue after already going through adjusting the cable first, of course. And it seemed to improve the issue. I thought it was gone, but I noticed at higher speeds on the highway that I was slipping again, around 8,000 or 9,000 RPMs. It's like it wasn't grabbing. So I adjusted it again, and it continued to happen. So I went to the next step, which was to pull out the clutch fibers and plates and check the quality of them to see if they were worn down or not. And what I discovered was that my clutch fibers were pretty much toast. This is a plate, and the plate, as you can see, has some discoloration on it. It might be kind of hard to see with the camera, but around here you'll see a tint of blue, and this tint of blue is a surefire sign that these things are pretty much ready to go, that they're kind of warped, they've had too much heat and friction on them, and they need to be replaced. But the most important aspect of the clutch assembly here is the actual fibers. I don't know exactly what material this is made of. I'm going to guess ceramic or something like that. It feels kind of like tile if you listen to it. But these little cubes here are the fibers that are supposed to create the friction to grab on the clutch, and as you can see on this one, it is extremely worn down. To take that all out though, we have to remove the right side of this particular bike, which is called the clutch cover. And on the SV650-S, this is a 2008, it's an entire assembly. Some of them you can just remove the actual clutch cover and you don't have to remove this one, but this particular one I had to drain all the oil out of it first, and then I had to drain all the coolant as well, because this is a water pump here that is part of the clutch cover assembly here on the right side of the motor. The bolts on there do not have a lot of torque on them. It's about 7 foot-pounds to 9 foot-pounds, so they're very easy to get off. There is one rubber gasket that goes around the entire thing, and whenever you get all the bolts out, you really kind of got to tug at it because it will be on there pretty tight. So in the process of tugging this thing off, I ripped my gasket, so I had to purchase a new one, which it's always good to replace it with a brand new one instead of reusing the old one anyways. You do not need any kind of sealant. There's no kind of gasket sealant or anything that goes on the gasket. This is what you're going to see, and this actually here is the clutch. Those fiber and plates I was showing you sleeve over the teeth on top of the clutch here. And in the center here is the actual push rod assembly that pushes the plates and separates them and contracts them depending on if you're engaging or disengaging the clutch. So this actually drives straight to the sprocket here, so you can see the wheel turn as you spin it around. There is, on this particular bike, and probably all bikes, what you're going to see when you pull it out is there's going to be 6 clutch plates, 6 clutch fibers, and 1 additional fiber which should be a different size than the other fibers. And that additional fiber will be the very first one inside of the clutch assembly here. There's also behind that 2 specific pressure washers on it. One is a flat washer and one has kind of a diagonal bend to it. So you should check your service manual obviously if you're going to get this far and try to reinstall the new clutch fibers and plates so that you can make sure that the reassembly is done properly. Because if you don't get it back in there the right way that it came out, then you're obviously going to have problems.
What site did you purchase them from?
Bike Bandit.
How much?
$180. Plate. fiber, plate, fiber, plate. So I put oil on these, let it soak on there for about an hour. The service manual will tell you that, it doesn't even tell you to soak it in oil, it just tells you to make sure that it has oil on it when you install it. The reason why is because you do not ever want to assemble this stuff without oil lubricating it between each other, because if you do not, then they'll be dry and they'll freeze up and stick together, which will cause a whole bunch of different issues. So that's the whole reason that they want you to soak them. Some people tell you soak them overnight, some people will tell you soak them for an hour. I just put oil on them and let them sit here for a couple hours, and I think that's good enough for me. And then of course the two washers I was talking about. There's a specific way that they go in. The first one is a flat one and it goes in first, and the second one is an incline.